got a good view, which is good. It's purposely focused.
Oh, good. He has sound too.
He sounds great. Wait, can you go to the live stream? Can we see it?
But the thing is, he says he sees it.
Oh, let me go.
Here, I'll forward you the link. And then, because you're used to your own he sees it though.
Okay.
And he included you in a text.
Yeah, I got it.
So that's close.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Wait, he did. Oh yeah, there. Okay, the ad comes up.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess we have to. It doesn't matter.
So that's why. I'll go ahead and record it. Yeah, I shut it down. Yeah, it's okay. And it starts to this off thing. But I'll just keep an eye on
They're not quite at the native level, because remember, the state tests are typically but they're in the form. Some of them are, right there. Then you go all the way over to the left. That's why there's this
I'm wiggling my fingers in front of it. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks. Good to know. Okay, bye.
Just welcome everybody. This is an incredibly important moment. And Secretary Gerdera is going to get us started, but the First Lady and I are thrilled to be talking about what is the singular, most important issue for Virginia's future, education. So Secretary Gerdera, I'll pass it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this really important and exciting event. And whether you're joining us here in the governor's office or whether you're joining us online, we want to show our appreciation for you spending part of your day with us on this important topic. I also want to acknowledge that we have some really important people, leaders in the Commonwealth with us this morning. Most of all, Governor Wilder, it is so wonderful to have you here. Thank you so very much. And I also want to acknowledge that we have Governors Allen and Governor McDonald also joining us online. They both are traveling across the Commonwealth today, but governors, thank you for being with us today as well. And in the room, we also have two former Secretaries of Education, which are dear and near to me. So Secretary Gerard Robinson and Secretary Laura Burnham. And we also have members of our delegates, Delegate Tatum. I want to say thank you also for coming. And when we're talking about VIPs, it is so important that we also acknowledge the incredible and heroic work of our teachers and our principals that they are doing every single day to serve our students, and especially over the last 2 years when people are just tired and we continue to throw curveballs and they do the work every day. And there is no one that is more emblematic of that heroic effort than Principal Dabney, who's with us again today. know that Principal Dabney has just been an inspiration to this administration. We have listened to your guidance, we have watched what you do, and you inspire us every day. And thank you for being here today for this important announcement. Thank you. So within an hour of being sworn in into office in January, Governor Youngkin reinforced that education was going to be a top priority for him and for this administration. When he signed executive order on day one, he signaled that he would do everything possible in his power to restore excellence to education throughout the Commonwealth. That first executive order instructs the superintendent of public instruction to report the specific steps to raise standards, close the achievement gaps in K-12 education, and ensure that every single student in the Commonwealth is graduates from high school ready for college and for a career. Today, we present our vision for excellence in education to the people of Virginia. But before any strategy can be developed effectively or implemented well, it's important to have an accurate and detailed picture, not only of the end, but also the starting point. So the ending. This administration's goal is crystal clear, unwavering, and urgent. We must ensure that every student in the Commonwealth has the skills and knowledge to be successful in our economy, our democracy, and in our communities. And to quote the great philosopher Wayne Gretzky on his record-holding scoring results of his career, skate to where the puck is going, not where it's been. We know where the puck is going. We know the demands for skills, for knowledge, for content knowledge is only going to increase. The race for talent is on. What has not been entirely clear is a shared understanding of our current state of education throughout the Commonwealth. This is why today we will present an intensive deep dive into the data that makes the irrefutable case that this state has not been serving all students well. No one argues that Virginia schools have long been regarded as among the best in the country and possibly the world. Companies from around the country and the world choose to locate and grow here in Virginia because of our extraordinary talent pool. But leadership requires truth-telling in addition to vision setting. Our stellar reputation is at risk if we do not come to terms with our current realities and commit to action today. So today, Superintendent Baylor will provide a sobering picture of the state of our education, and it makes a handful of conclusions very, very clear. State policy choices and priorities over the last decade have resulted in lower student achievement in reading and math, wider achievement gaps for our Black, Hispanic, and low-income students, reduced transparency around outcomes and our startling downward trend lines, and eroding parent confidence in the Commonwealth's public schools. All of these results are troubling, but I am most concerned about the lack of commitment to public transparency and to providing a clear, understandable picture of student achievement. Virginians deserve to have quality information about how our students are doing and how well our schools are serving every single learner. If we want improved results, then access to quality, reliable, consistent information isn't a nice to have, it's a must have. Instead, leaders changed definitions, they lowered expectations, and they reduced the importance of proficiency in determining school quality and accreditation. And they often did this in the name of equity. President Bush used to refer to this as the soft bigotry of low expectations. I call it playing wrong. We cannot afford to lose another generation of children because of our inability to hold ourselves, our schools, and our students to high expectations. And so next, Dr. Rosa Atkins, a lifelong educator, and fortunately the director of the Governor's Office of Diversity, Opportunity, and Inclusion, and a former superintendent of Charlottesville Schools, will reinforce the importance of this data as a wake-up call to ensure access to opportunity and excellence is the standard for all of our students across the entire Commonwealth. And finally, Governor Youngkin will share today his commitments to the Commonwealth, not only to close and address the learning loss crisis, which was exacerbated by far too long closed schools, but also to restore excellence across all of your schools. We will be unwavering to our mission to establish high expectations for students, for schools, and for ourselves, so that every student graduates ready for success in career and in college. Our use of longitudinal data will ensure that we know where every child is in their learning journey. And when they fall off track, we will be there with an action plan to get them back on quickly. We will empower teachers and parents to support these students. And we will make Virginia the most transparent and accountable state in the nation and the best place in the world to be educated. We also offer an invitation today. This work cannot be done solely by policy enrichment. The most important decisions are not made in state capitals. They are made around kitchen tables. They're made in classrooms, and they're made in communities across this Commonwealth. We invite all of you. We invite all of you to join us as parents, as teachers, as legislators, as school board members, as employers, to join us in this effort to ensure every student has access to a quality education and is prepared for success in life. I now invite Superintendent Balo to present her report to the people of Virginia and to the governor.
Welcome, and thank you so much, Secretary Gadara. I'd also like to acknowledge the executive leadership team from the Department of Education that's here. Thank you for your wisdom, thank you for your guidance, and thank you for your leadership. Since January 15th, I've visited multiple school divisions. I've talked with teachers, and I've built an understanding of the issues, and I've collaborated with leaders. I can tell you firsthand that there are heroic educators and leaders in every school and every community. They're making a difference with their continued work, and we will continue the work together. Tenets from today's report will ensure that we have a shared focus. Together, over the last few months, we have identified education priorities that need to be addressed but didn't make it into this report. They're still important, and the work continues beyond today. I have also reached out to many partners for advice and feedback on this report that we are releasing right now. And their contributions and criticisms hold great weight, and I am grateful for their dedication and for their partnership. As I've engaged in these conversations and reviewed the data, there we go, one thing is clear. The perception of how Virginia thinks that children are doing in schools is different than the reality. Over time, we have become accustomed to a culture of sporadic sharing of data, lowered expectations for students, and declining student achievement. It has happened very gradually. Today's report signifies a new beginning to our work together. This report is a renewal of our shared purpose to focus on student achievement, high expectations, and opportunities for every student. I know teachers and education leaders across the Commonwealth are all up to the task. I know this because I've talked with many of you. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the impact that you make. Your voice and your advocacy for students is key. Teachers, your lift continues to be tremendous. And as we release this report, many of you are administering SOL assessments. Thank you for your work and your dedication. And I can tell you we would not move forward if we weren't assured that you will stay at the helm, teaching students every single day. Over the next 4 years, my charge is clear. We need to move Virginia forward in a new direction with students at the forefront. Today, I share the story of Virginia education through data, and not just the good data, all of the data. For years, Virginia has moved the goalposts on things like accreditation requirements and proficiency cut scores on tests. This has created a narrative of student achievement that does not bear out when compared with scores on national assessments. Our accreditation system for holding schools accountable and driving school improvement is confusing and it's unhelpful. Scores from our state assessments are telling us that our students are much higher in proficiency than they actually are. For nearly a decade, something called the honesty gap has been calculated for each state. This is a term that is familiar to every state, and with it, it represents the difference between state assessment proficiency levels and proficiency levels on the National Assessment of Education Progress, or NAEP, sometimes called the nation's report card. For example, in 2019, Virginia's state assessments showed that 75% of fourth graders were rated proficient or higher in reading. However, the NAEP assessment scores from that same year showed that only 38% demonstrated proficiency, a difference of 37 points. The honesty gap is even wider for our Black and brown students. 71% of Black fourth grade students demonstrated proficiency on the 2019 Math SOL test, compared to 26% on the NAEP. For Hispanic students, the gap was 77% on the SOL test, compared to 36% on NAEP. Moreover, our NAEP reading scores themselves have declined to a statistically significant degree, reversing years of steady progress and improvements in achievement since the launch of Virginia's SOL reform in the mid-1990s. These troubling trends continue into high school. Student performance on advanced placement or AP exams in Virginia has declined over the past 7 years. In 2015, Virginia was third in the nation in the percentage of high school graduates qualifying for college credit on at least one AP test. Since then, the Commonwealth has dropped to 9th. Historically, the overall performance of Virginia's students on the SAT has compared favorably with nationwide averages in other states. However, the relatively high overall achievement of Virginia students on the SAT masks wide gaps in performance and college readiness when the data is disaggregated by race and ethnicity. In 2019, while the majority of white and Asian test takers met all benchmarks, only 22% and 44% of Hispanic, 22% of Black and 44% of Hispanic test takers met them. We must do better to make sure that all of our students are ready for the next steps after graduation. The shift to online remote learning since 2020 has only served to increase the urgency behind today's call to action. Each day we learn more and more about the extent of the harm done to all students as a result of online remote learning. We have already seen steep declines across the board in student proficiency, and it is unfortunately also not a surprise that we are seeing evidence of widened achievement gaps for those students prohibited from in-person learning for the longest amount of time. In fact, the average high-poverty school that remained remote for the 2021 school year lost so much learning that a year of high-dosage tutoring would still fail to recover the learning loss. Let's shift to literacy and reading, especially in the early grades. The story of widening achievement gaps continues. 42% of Virginia's second graders scored below reading benchmarks on the state's early reading assessment called PALS in the fall of 2021. We will likely see that many of these students are still below proficiency benchmarks today. The story for Black students, Hispanic students, and low-income students is even more disheartening. Same year, same test, 56% of Black students, 57% of Hispanic students, and 57% of low-income students were below the benchmark in second grade reading. And the last 2 years hasn't just harmed student learning. Parents are losing faith in us to help them make sure that their children are set up to be successful, happy, and accomplished. These concerns are warranted, and for the 2021 school year, the parents of nearly 60,000 school-age children chose to teach their kids at home, increasing the number of homeschool students by 56% over the 2019-2020 school year. Data are showing us that a large number of those students did not return to public schools for this school year, and that the trend to homeschool began long before 2020. We have a deep responsibility to harness this moment in order to restore faith in our educational institutions and repair the relationships between families and our schools. I'm not only here to tell you about what's happened in the past, what so many of you have experienced and witnessed yourselves. I'm also here to talk about what's next. So let's shift to the future. We are going to make sure that every student in Virginia has a chance to achieve, a chance to realize their full potential. The underlying framework for our work moving forward is a set of principles that represents a new approach to education in the Commonwealth. In today's report, we have told the story of Virginia education through the data. Now, we talk about the way forward. I come to you today with a real sense of urgency and concern for all of our students across the Commonwealth. I hope you join me not just in sounding the alarm, but in identifying, advocating, and knocking down barriers in the way of achieving the goals that we've set. In the 1990s, Virginia responded to low NAEP scores with a bipartisan push for high expectations and high standards. This effort continued into the 2000s, and Virginia schools and students rose to the challenge, making Virginia one of the top education states in the country. Our aim, our goal, is to once again rise to this challenge and be nothing less than best in class, best in the nation. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you my colleague, my friend, Acting Chief Diversity, Opportunity, and Inclusion Officer, Dr. Rosa Atkins.
Thank you, Superintendent Balo. Thank you, Secretary Cadera, and thank you to each one of you for making education a priority. Now, to the 132 school superintendents and over 89,000 teachers and many other leaders and staff in the Commonwealth educational system, I say thank you. You inspire us with countless examples of dedication, perseverance, heroic work, and accomplishments. For many, the desire to be an educator stems from the opportunity to profoundly impact the lives of young people, to help shape the future of individuals and communities. As a more than 30-year-long educator and past superintendent in Charlottesville, I have witnessed the passion, care, and enormous level of professionalism and expertise you bring to the school division and classrooms each and every day. Student success is your mission, and we honor you for that mission. It is never easy to give so much to a profession and then hear that the goal for which we all aim has actually moved farther away. I know firsthand the impact a report like this can have on individuals, families, and communities. It is hard, but we owe it to our learners to listen and to act upon the truth. In reading and math, the gap between student proficiency scores on state assessments and grade level proficiency benchmarks on NAEP is growing for all students, and more rapidly and wider for Black and brown students. Even with our best efforts, these already existing and growing gaps for Black and brown students have been exacerbated by COVID-19 disruptions. The need to act is clear and the urgency evident. As we make decisions about the reading and math performance and needs of our Black and brown students, let us not fail to embrace that we have a powerful potential in our students, and we must have the courage to change old ideas and practices so that we may direct the power toward good. In the last will and testament of Mary McLeod Bethune, she pronounced a sacred responsibility to our young people. We must never discourage them from aspiring to greatness by lowering standards or measuring progress by a ruler that is too short. Equity is not lowering expectations. Equity is giving all learners what they need to meet high expectations and being transparent and accountable to those results. Equity is empowering all parents regardless of background or income, with the knowledge and ability to make choices for their children. Equity is giving the learners who need the most help access to the best teachers and rewarding that great teaching. Equity is ensuring all learners are safe and welcomed at school, and that no child is discriminated against or taught to discriminate. Equity is opportunity. Our education system must believe in all children and their ability to achieve excellence. These are the truths that will guide us as we face the concerning data in this report together. I am confident that my fellow superintendents will reflect on this report and use it as a call to action in their communities and schools. Governor Youngkin's administration is here to walk alongside you as we take steps to address achievement gaps among Black and brown students and inadequate transparency and accountability. Governor Youngkin has made high standards and excellence for all students a centerpiece of his administration. I know he is committed to doing what is best for all of our learners. Join me in welcoming Governor Glenn Youngkin.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Dr. Atkins, thank you for those inspiring words. And it is extraordinary to have you part of the team. And we deeply value you. Thank you. Today is not just consequential. Today is a moment in time for all of us to recognize we must change direction. We are not serving all of Virginia's children, and we must. We want to be the best in education. We should be the best in education. And the data that is compiled and shared with you today suggests that we have a lot of work to do to be the best. And beyond that, the trends have been heading in the wrong direction. So we know that if we want to be the best, we have to change those trends and take bold steps forward. Parents across the Commonwealth spoke loudly last year. They want us to restore excellence in education. They want to give their children best-in-class opportunities. And that is what we're all here to do. Now, each child gets one shot at an excellent education. One chance. And we have a responsibility to do everything that we can to make sure that that child has the best chance. The alarming data points that our state superintendent of schools just shared with us really do make it clear that we are not doing what we need to do to provide every child that best chance. The significant lowering of expectations, the lack of transparency with data, the weak accountability for these results, that all ends today. Partnering with parents, partnering with students, partnering with teachers, with school division, superintendents, members of the General Assembly, and so many others that are here today or joining us online, we must lock arms and march together in order to get Virginia's educational system moving in the right direction. We cannot know where we're going unless we know where we're starting. And where we're starting is not where we thought we were. Now let me be clear. We use the words "our commitment," and we do not use those words lightly. And they're underpinned by 7 principles that we together will use to guide our path. These 7 principles reflect this commitment. Let me be clear. Commitment is a commitment. First, we will establish and maintain high expectations for students, for schools, and for ourselves. We will hold ourselves accountable as well. This is about raising the ceiling and the floor, not lowering the ceiling. We need to close the honesty gap. We must have best-in-class standards in history, in math, in reading, and in science. And in partnership with the General Assembly and educators, engaged stakeholders, we've already begun the work. We've begun the work to ensure that Virginia's children can meet high expectations in reading standards particularly. By prioritizing the science of reading, I was incredibly honored and proud to sign the Virginia Literacy Act a few weeks ago, which requires the alignment of our reading education with the science of reading in all instructional materials, all of them, across the entire Commonwealth. A common program that creates new individualized reading plans implemented in partnership with parents for those students not on track to be on grade level reading by the 3rd grade. How about this? It provides reading coaches and specialists to support our teachers and tools for parents to be engaged in this journey from home. This landmark legislation specifically focuses on those grade school students who are not reading at national proficiency benchmarks so that they, in fact, can catch up. And oh, by the way, fulfill the dreams that they have, even in 3rd grade. Our second priority is that parents and teachers will be empowered. Empowerment is so critical to our education excellence in Virginia, and we will continue to be a guiding light for the nation on this topic. Research shows something we already know. The 2 most important people in a child's educational journey are their parents and their teacher. You know, I'll say more about this in a minute, but that is why I am so impatient on getting a budget out of our Senate that will, in fact, raise teacher salaries, provide bonuses for those most important people in our children's education. Parents and teachers must know where a student is in order to assess how to help them continue to excel or get back on track. And so we will institute personalized learning plans. Personalized learning plans for every struggling student not on grade level in any subject, implementing a partnership between parents and teachers. Under the leadership of Superintendent Balo and the Virginia Department of Education, we will work to provide a personalized learning plan template, resources to equip parents, and support for teachers to implement in their classroom across the Commonwealth. Recently, in addition to this work, I had the chance to visit Rivers Bend Children's Center with the First Lady. And we saw how early childhood education, this public-private choice system that we are building, has the potential to be the model for the nation. Rivers Bend Children's Center is a private preschool serving children supported by publicly funded child care subsidy program that parents can use to choose what's best for their child. The best practices in early childhood education: access, choice, data-driven innovation, transparency, and accountability. These best practices can and will be replicated across the Commonwealth to provide our earliest learners a chance to catch up, to get ahead. Oh, by the way, ready for kindergarten, ready for life. Our third principle is that we will demand a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination in education and beyond. Every single student deserves an education that does not teach or practice discrimination. We shouldn't be teaching our children to be judgmental. We need to be teaching Virginia's students how to think, not what to think. We won't tolerate violations of Title IV and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, including policies and programs and training and curriculum that advances discrimination. And we will update our history content standards to be best in class. Let me be clear. We will teach all of our history, the good and the bad. We will also teach our children their rights and responsibilities as citizens under our foundational documents, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of Virginia. Fourth, we'll foster innovation. We'll foster innovation in all education environments and build on the example of excellence that currently exists in many places across the Commonwealth. I'm constantly reminded that rather than invent it from scratch, let's replicate what's working. And there are so many places that it's working across the Commonwealth. We all know that the one-size-fits-all model doesn't work. We also must continue to support innovation across the Commonwealth, including lab schools, governor schools, magnet schools, charter schools. A few weeks ago, we had the great privilege of visiting a school right here in Greater Richmond called Code RVA. It's a regional high school focused on computer science. It's a magnet school. It enrolls students from 15 school divisions. Code RVA is an excellent example of how innovation and partnership can benefit our students and improve their opportunities. They serve an extraordinary diverse student body. It reflects each of the participating school district students. They serve 2 times the number of students with disabilities than the average school in the Commonwealth. They have personalized learning models. All juniors and seniors participate in relevant internships with businesses and community partners. Nearly a third of the students at Code RVA graduate with an associate degree in computer science. By the way, this school is available to all students in those 15 school districts. So we remain committed to our goal to support the launch of 20 new lab schools, including computer science, across the Commonwealth. Virginia's parents, students, and teachers have not had a clear picture of the academic performance of their students and their schools, and this will change. Brings up our 5th priority. We will be the most transparent and accountable state in the nation. If you are fully accredited in Virginia as a school, that should mean that we are truly preparing the students who go there for the demands of the workplace and beyond. Working with the State Board of Education, we will revise the standards of accreditation to ensure that schools earning full accreditation meet this basic standard of excellence that I think we've taken for granted. And we will provide parents and teachers with a clear picture of learning proficiency, growth, and gaps for every student in the Commonwealth. Now, I hope you heard that. Every student in the Commonwealth, we will provide to their parents, to their teachers, a clear picture of learning proficiency, growth, and gaps. Our 6th priority, our 6th principle, is that we will ensure students have post-secondary readiness. Every high school graduate in Virginia should be either career ready, college ready, or both. Schools need to provide multiple pathways to post-secondary readiness and success. through apprenticeships, internships, workforce training opportunities, partnerships with our community colleges, we can prepare our young people to enter high-wage, high-demand jobs right out of high school, if they so choose. Recently, the First Lady and I had the immense privilege of hosting the Virginia Council on Women's STEAM-H Essay Award Ceremony at the Governor's Mansion. We heard from 10 phenomenal young women, leaders in STEM, receiving scholarships to pursue dreams. Their stories, their aspirations were truly humbling and inspiring. You know, STEM and computer science is such a foundational element to the next generation of jobs. We need to make sure that we're preparing our students in high school to be ready. Finally, we must protect freedom of speech and freedom of inquiry. It's foundational to our nation. It's foundational to our Commonwealth, and it's foundational to the places of learning. We must tackle complex, complicated, and uncomfortable topics that are age-appropriate in ways that support critical thinking and vigorous classroom discussions, again, that are age-appropriate. To support our teaching and school leaders in this endeavor, we will provide training on facilitating these tough discussions and these uncomfortable topics with civility, with grace, and without judgment. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the General Assembly can help us on all of these priorities. First and foremost, they can complete the budget and send it to me. And let me be clear, we will give teachers meaningful raises that they need in order to be appropriately compensated for the extraordinary work that they do. We will invest in a new way in cooperation with localities in building schools and addressing the facility gap that we know exists all across the Commonwealth. We can fund lab school initiatives and innovation all across the Commonwealth. And the step between here and there being a record education budget never seen in the history of the Commonwealth, is the walking distance between the Capitol and this building. We need to get this done now. The commitment that we're making today, our commitment to Virginians, is highly ambitious. You hear words like best in the nation. You don't use those words lightly. That's what Virginia's kids deserve. They deserve excellence. They deserve our commitment. And they deserve an opportunity to go fulfill the dreams that they have had and will see through. We can't do any of this without parents and teachers at the front of the line. And I hope it's clear we support both. The cooperation between parents and teachers and a student is paramount. And I know that Secretary Gadara, State Superintendent Balo, talk about this every day. So thank you for both of your leadership. It's amazing. We will see historic investments in education. We will see transparency in how we're doing. We will see a relentless pursuit of excellence. And together, we will see Virginia's education system reestablished as the best in the nation, because our kids deserve it. Thank you so much for being here today. Gotten to know me well enough, it's time to go to work. We have a lot to do, and so let's get to it. Thank you all very, very much.
If you buy it,